In the newest installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, beloved hero, villain, and God of Mischief, Loki, has his own show, and it was nothing short of a hit for dedicated fans. Airing on Disney+, the show Loki follows the popular Marvel Comics-based character after the events of Avengers Endgame, counts his adventures as he steps out of his powerful brother's shadow at last. As is the case with most Marvel productions, it was an instant success in its first installment, and fans were hungry for more, especially after the breathtaking cliffhanger in the Season 1 finale. Marvel and Disney+ announced in the final credits of Season 1 that it will be releasing Season 2 of Loki, and we know that it'll be just as good, if not better than the first installment. Today's video will be going over Loki Season 2 details that will change everything. But fair warning, there might be some spoilers ahead. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the exciting new videos we post. First thing, when can we expect Season 2? Dedicated fans didn't have to wait very long after finishing Season 1 to have confirmation of a second installment. In fact, Loki will return in Season 2 as stamped on a case file at the end credits of the first season, meaning you only had to refrain from turning off the television too soon to see the good news. However, when that season will be released might be a little more frustrating to eager fans. Currently, there is no official release date from Disney, who's also currently cranking out new Marvel Cinematic Universe content surrounding several other characters and storylines. And the honest answer is that we can only guess at when the wait will be over. Based on the timelines and release dates of other projects, most fans predict that Loki Season 2 will be released before 2023, as Jonathan Majors, who plays He Who Remembers, is set to star in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which begins filming at that time. All we can do is cross our fingers that it will be sooner rather than later. Number 2, who will be returning? Although we aren't sure yet who exactly will be returning for the second season, we know there will be several staple characters gracing our scenes once again. Among them are obviously Tom Hiddleston as Loki and Sophia Di Martino as his lady counterpart, Sylvie, as well as Owen Wilson as Mobius, Gugu Mbatha-Raw as Ravonna Renslayer, and Wunmi Mosaku as Hunter B-15. Less clear is whether Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror or He Who Remains will actually be returning, due to his prior confirmed appearances on Quantumania. For storyline purposes, he'll likely at least appear in the beginning episodes, but some doubt whether Majors will be able to be present for the filming of the entire season. As the release date is confirmed and draws closer, Disney hopefully will release some answers to these burning questions. Number 3, endless possibilities. Because of the first season's time-traveling nature, Season 2 of Loki could really take any direction and pick any storyline that producers choose, making the wait for its release even more tantalizing. For starters, fans aren't sure whether the new installment will continue on its non-linear time travel path or have a more concrete linear storyline. The interconnecting nature of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's storylines, along with their general reliance on the original Marvel comics, means that it's often hard to veer from the established narrative and timelines. However, despite the new rules brought into flexible time by Adventures Endtime, Loki's non-adherence to this original master timeline gives endless possibilities. We can't wait to see what direction the producers take. Next up, the TVA cliffhanger. Season 1 focused on the discovery of He Who Remains and the agents of the TVA. Unfortunately, killing He Who Remains did not work quite as well as they had imagined, and TVA still exists, with the same agents. This automatically creates several new potential storylines for the new season, especially as a new variant of He Who Remains was revealed. And it seems that this new variant is even worse than the original, and that's saying something, as Kang the Conqueror was one of the most ominous villains in the entire MCU. Loki will have his hands full in this newest installment, that is for certain. Number 5, Loki's personal development. In Season 2, we'll likely see some of the best character development from Loki himself, which is no small feat considering his transition from a villain to a hero throughout the entire storyline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The core character will definitely be dealing with the personal repercussions resulting from his breakup with Sylvie, while still having to work to warn everyone against breaking out in a multiversal war. The God of Mischief, who has spent a large portion of the MCU's storylines until recently causing chaos and discord, found, wherever he could, will now be faced with the monumental job of undoing the web that has brought the universe to the very brink of chaos. This total about-face from his original personality and goals will likely come with a fair amount of character development in Season 2, as Loki attempts to navigate these new waters. Expect to see lots of personal growth. Next up, Ravena's Contribution. Ravonna Renslayer was introduced as a side plot in Season 1, making it very likely that producers will continue to investigate her storyline, especially as it was revealed in the finale that she used to teach at Franklin D. Roosevelt High School on Earth. Likely Season 2 will provide some answers as to how she made the transition from teacher to Judge Renslayer. Additionally, because she is one of the only other characters that truly understands what's really going on, it's very possible that Ravonna would team up with Loki. But some fans believe that she could also use Loki for her own personal gains to get to He Who Remains, whom Loki and Sylvie discovered was behind the TVA. The latter of these theories is very popular with fans because it adheres to the original stories in the comic books, where Ravonna and He Who Remains are romantically involved. If that plot ends up being the case, it's possible we will be seeing much more of Ravonna Renslayer and King the Conqueror, and we certainly wouldn't mind. 7. Loki and Sylvie. Sylvie was a huge part of the character development that we saw Loki make throughout the first season, as she helped him feel emotions that he had likely never felt before, and made him aware of his capacity for love and the drawbacks of a solitary, isolated lifestyle. The enemies to lovers trope didn't quite play out with those two though, as they ended the first season having circled back around to enemies again due to a disagreement. However, fans are certain that the two will end up back together again, if not as friends or lovers, at least as allies. For one, Sylvie is the Lady Loki of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it seems only fitting that she is metaphorically tied to Tom Hiddleston's character. For another, the pair will need to reunite at some point, as joining together is likely the only way that they'll be strong enough to overpower Elioth and defeat Kang. And what would the MCU be without a little love interest anyway? Number 8, the inclusion of other plots. Season 2 anticipated release date puts it squarely at a rather heated time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Loki has major problems on his shoulders as he attempts to quell the brewing chaos, prevent a multiverse war, but it looks like to some extent that may be impossible. It seems inevitable that this war is coming, and coming soon, but what is less certain is whether it'll be broken out by the finale of Loki Season 2. Although Loki's efforts to fight the TVA agents and his Season 1 nemesis, He Who Remains, will surely feature heavily in the new installment. The battle for both time and space might not have truly taken off yet. Some speculate that this crucial development for the MCU will be left to the plot of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Either way, we do know that Loki will certainly have his hands full in Season 2. 9. The Involvement of Mobius. The twisted elements of time surrounding the TVA means that everything is constantly being twisted, changed, and that nothing is as it seems. For starters, TVA agent Mobius no longer recognizes Loki, who will likely need his help as he battles his new demons in the new season. A prominent fan theory is that Loki will attempt to get Mobius back on his side and work with him to travel through the mess at this new timeline and attempt to get everything back on track. Because of the time-jumping elements, this means that the two could end up at any point in the MCU, which has the potential for some serious and exciting Marvel Easter eggs and historical references. Be sure to watch carefully because all of these time travel plots can make your head spin, if it isn't already spinning at the end of Season 1. And finally, what will happen if the TVA is destroyed? At the end of Season 1, despite the defeat of He Who Remains, it appears that a new future might have emerged that is even worse than the previous one. He Who Remains has a new, more ominous variant. The TVA still exists in this timeline. This brings up the question of what would happen if the TVA were truly unraveled. Of course, He Who Remains promised an awful future involving death and destruction, but as a villain with personal stakes in the matter, we aren't sure if we can trust what he says. Certainly, Loki will spend a large portion of Season 2 attempting to find an answer to this question, as well as a solution that minimizes the promised death and destruction. And who can blame him? And that brings us to the end of our video. Thanks for watching.